All right, we're here today. We're gonna make this iconic squirrel fish, and it's essentially using a whole fish that we're essentially gonna fillet and lay out on the plate like it looks like an entire whole fish, but without the bone. You're gonna be able to eat it. Fish fillets, but it's gonna look like an entire fish. And usually this fish is done with freshwater mandarin fish found in China, very common in China, and that's what all the most restaurants serve. Some restaurants do serve carp, freshwater carp, but today we're going to use a sea bass, fresh sea bass. So essentially, what we're going to do first to fillet it, and for those of you who have filleted a whole fish, it should be fairly easy. But you look here where it ends, the cavity ends over here, and where the thick meat starts over here, and you make one cut down to the bone, like so. And then you're gonna follow the bone here, right from the tip. You see this fin that we've cut off, but you're gonna follow the tip. Make sure you got a nice sharp knife. And you can now lift the meat. Give it a little tension as you're coming down. All the way down to the tail. And you can hear the knife against the bone. You want to hug the bone and get as much meat as you can. Here, this is where this starts. Now you can also slide your knife underneath, actually this way, underneath, and come out the other side, and poke the knife out on the other side. Again, hug the bone. Lift, and your fillet should come out. Again, these are the belly bones. And that's why you want to get a nice sized fish, because you want to get a decent sized fillet. Now what you're going to do is you're going to cut all the way down to the bottom. Just about to the, let me change this position so you can see. Just all the way down to the bottom until you get right to the tail, but not quite. Don't cut it. Flip this over. Then you're done with this side. Could have done a better job here, but more practice, the better. So I'm going to put this meat back and do the other side. You want to keep everything intact. And do the same thing on this side. I'm going to start from the tail, or the top, that is. You can lift the meat as you go along. Again, hit the side here, start that cut. I'm just using a chef's knife here. It's a little pointy, so it's easier, I think. And again, poke this out the other side, hug the bone, go to the end, and then detach this side. Make sure you're not getting the bone. Again, we want a fillet here, so. Okay, so now you've got your two fillets here. And what you want to do at at this point is peel this back. And with a sturdy chef knife, you should be able to cut right over here, like that. Then you have your tail intact with your 2 fillets, just like that. All right, so now that we've got the fillet over here, we're gonna process this head, cut off this body over here. You can save this for fish stock. Again, with a firm chef knife, give it a little knock. You can just cut this off, and that you can use for stock. And basically what you've got here is the presentation of the head here, and you want this. This is how you're going to present it on the plate, just like that. Okay, next now we're gonna slice up these fillets, put a crosshatch in them to get a little bit more surface area, and you know, get that nice iconic pattern of the squirrel fish, and make sure they're nice and crispy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first put a crosshatch on. I'm going to put vertical slices, and then we're going to do horizontal slices, a little bit at an angle, so we get nice long pieces. So what you want to do is slowly, very carefully, you cut to the skin, down to the skin, but you want to be careful not to cut the skin itself. You want to have the skin intact. So you got one cut, and just a little bit more until we reach the skin. Sometimes you could just press it with your knife, with a sharp knife, and it'll go through. Then another one. Hit the skin. You can see we hit the skin there. And another one here. Okay, and then after that, you're gonna put a same thing horizontal. Again, be careful that you don't cut the skin. Very important. So take your time on this one. I'm gonna take my time here. There you go. You see the skin? Another one. Yep, right there. The skin is actually pretty tough, but it's not the end of the world if you cut through the skin, but you really don't want to do it. Because the skin is what holds your whole fish together, actually. Otherwise, you're going to have a couple of pieces. Cross hatch here, and this one little piece here. And you can kind of see what you're ended up with here. A little bit of a cross hatch pattern here, and that gives you a lot of surface area. And I got a little nub here that I messed up, but we're going to throw that in the oil. Now you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and here you go. You got both sides, and you got this kind of a pattern here. All right, so I've got here an egg yolk and some spices and some wine, and mix those up. And this is pretty dry right now, but after you cut it, we washed it pretty good, but after you cut it, you can wash it in ice water and make sure everything's a little bit tightened up, and then pat it dry. But this looks pretty good to me right now, so I'm going to start dredging this a little bit, and you're gonna get your hands messed up a little bit, because you want to get it between all of these little nubs that you've made here, in between all the nooks and crannies, because that's where you're gonna have the cornstarch has to stick to it. So I've got this. Make sure you get two front and back, two sides, in between. Okay, you could actually set this aside here and do the same thing with the head. There's not a lot here, so you definitely want to get your hands in there and use every bit of this. Now, what we usually do is keep this. You want to keep this fish with his mouth open. So what I'll do is take a toothpick here and just kind of like stick it in here. Oops. And hold this while it's frying, so that it fries with its mouth open. And then you can remove the toothpick later after that. Move this aside, and better to get like a half sheet pan, something big, and get the cornstarch there. Carefully with this fillet, and just put it down on both sides. And what you're going to want to do is make sure, again, you get the cornstarch in here really good, all the nooks and crannies. And if you don't get this in there, it's going to stick, and you're not going to get this nice crosshatch pattern. So again, you spend all this time doing this, just take your time. All right, so once we get everything coated, shake this off a little, the excess. And there you go. You've got all these individual pieces dredged, and both sides dredged, and you're ready for the fry. So we'll set this aside here, and then now you're going to give the same treatment to the headpiece. Now, for Chinese, this head actually is going to be pretty edible. There's actually a lot of meat here. You're going to poke at it with your chopsticks and get the meat on here. Okay, so you've got this fillet that you've dredged here, and this is actually the orientation of the fish. This is the belly side, and this is the back side. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the fish on its back, and the two bellies are like this, and then you're going to take each piece and just splay it like this. It might sound crazy, but this is the way you're going to fry it. And then when you've got two pieces like this, you're going to hold the tail when you're frying it. You're going to hold the tail like this, and then you're going to fold this up so that the two sides of the fish fillet are out. And you're going to give it a little shake, and then when you put it in the oil, you're going to put it in the oil just like this, and you're going to lower it until it starts to fry. You could actually hold it closer over here until it starts to fry, and then once you're going to swim it in the oil, we're going to show you, this is just a dry run, and then it's going to stay together. And then when it stays together, then you can let it go and make sure that this tail is high up like this, because this is the presentation that you want. You want it fried like this, and the head like this, and that's how it's going to look on the plate. So let's go to the fryer. Grab both ends, and I'm going to lower it slowly. And you can use a pair of tongs if you like. A little safer. And right now, just lower it right in there, and it's holding its shape. I'm going to hold this tail up here while I ladle some of this oil over. Holding its shape there, and just leave it fry. Get this tail cooked here. No one can eat it, but it's got to look. It's got to be cooked. Important on this top part that you keep ladling the oil, because that's you're ladling the oil, it's frying, it's going to sit on top and frying it evenly. And use this spider. If you got something smoother, it's better, but this works fine too. And let it drain. Look at that. That's your tail of your fish. That's the way it's going to look. We'll arrange that on the plate a little bit better. Now we're going to fry the head. And remember, we want this head to lay open like this. So we're going to lay it open just like this, lower it slowly down, and guide it in, and just let it lie down right in there. And this ladling trick is, I mean, we're using a lot of oil here already, 6, 7 cups. This is an extra large fish. If you use a smaller fish, you need less. But ladling this oil really saves oil because you need a lot more oil that you can completely submerge this fish. One thing I wanted to mention is that our readers asked about it. You know, how big is this wok? Well, this is a pretty big wok. Yeah, 18-inch wok. Might even be a 20-inch wok, I'm not sure. Somewhere in between there, 18 and 20 inch. And you know, it's good that you're kind of using it and it's the oil is low. But also, you need a lot more oil to fill this wok too. So if you've got a smaller wok, the oil is going to be a little bit higher. You never want to fill it too high, but you're going to probably use less oil as well. What I'm going to do after this, after the oil is cooled, is I'm going to run this through fine mesh strainer and set it aside in the pot. And if I'm deep frying anything else, I can use it. Or if I'm using making stir fries, I use this oil as well. And a lot of people say, where is that? You know, I never can get it taste like the restaurant. Well, restaurants are doing this constantly. They're frying whether it's a fish, whether it's shrimp, their sweet and sour pork. They're frying in the oil, and then they're using that oil to cook with. And maybe that is the secret to the restaurant flavor. At least one of them. I'm going to carefully lift this up again with the spatula, and it pretty much stays there by itself. Alright, I'm heating the wok. I'm just going to fry these pine nuts. Actually, I took the oil out. I actually forgot. But best thing to do is actually take one of these fine mesh strainers and put it in the oil, and then for 30 seconds. But since I forgot to do that, I'm just gonna toast these pine nuts, because these pine nuts, when they're toasted, taste incredible. So I'm gonna toast them in the wok here in a little bit of the oil, about 2.5, 3 tablespoons of oil that I have here, because that's what I'm gonna use for the. Okay, just on the brown, and that's it. Up they come. Don't want to burn. Beautiful. All right, I'm gonna saute these onions. Get them a little bit nice, caramelized, and a little bit crispy. These onions add a beautiful flavor to the sauce. We're on low heat now. I'm going to put this mixture that we put together, tomato paste, all this stuff. I use a little spatula to get every bit I can. And we're going to fry this until it's nice and fragrant. Alright, until it's fragrant. And then I'm going to take this mixture, stir up this mixture, juice, has some cornstarch in it also, so I got to stir this up. I get all the cornstarch on the bottom. All right. So this is all mixed. Bring this up to simmer. And the cornstarch will thicken it. And this sauce, you don't want it to be too thin because that fish is going to soak up, that fried fish is going to soak up all of this sauce. Alright, we got everything. At the end, use your spatula. There you go. Now we're going to put some of these pine nuts on. I'm going to put these peas on for a garnish. And there it is. Your squirrel fish recipe right here. Fit for a banquet.